Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. The Alliance was formally announced on Tuesday, Lauren, and I'm still wondering what exactly we learned from this formal announcement from the Alliance on Tuesday.
That it could have been an email.
Yeah, really could have. We've all been
Yeah.
there. Why are we having this meeting?
I was going to say, like, we don't have as much overlap with, like, normie job people in
No,
day to day life usually until
no.
yesterday, because that was a thing that derailed almost all of our entire days.
Yes.
Only to have them all get up there and just basically be like, yep, we are all friends and
I
we care about each other and we like the same things. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you guys. It's great to have friends. Couldn't this have just been something you sent out and that's it?
It could have been an Instagram post, a photo of all three of you, holding your pumpkin spice lattes like besties for life. But that's not what they want. I guess they wanted to just present themselves as like, we are the conferences that truly care about college, not like the SEC. It's like, you all
You know,
understand that like SEC people don't care about that kind of stuff. And I would also make the argument that anybody who's interested in what's going on with the college football playoff, they also don't care about all these things that you lay out. Like, for instance, right? Like this is part of the email. So let me go ahead and like pull up the share here
the
for
thing
for
that
a
could have
second.
been an email
The
in
thing
and of
that could have been
itself.
an email,
Right,
right?
right,
So
sure.
here we are with like, let's just cut to the chase. I put all the big arrows and whatnot to what this was really about. But they're saying things like, oh, we care about diversity and equity. And like, well, yeah, I would hope you do all these things. Like, you
Right.
as an entity should already be thinking about these things, even though we are given multiple examples that you don't. For instance, what happened with the women's tournament this past March.
Yeah, and I think I will, in their slight defense, slight,
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to be somewhat careful with what they say,
Okay.
um, because I think it was Nicole Auerbach I saw tweet this because of antitrust.
Sure.
So it's not like they can come out and be like, we are a voting bloc and will stop the SEC take, they cannot say that.
Yeah, they can't say that outright. Right.
But I think what this was ultimately intended to do, but again, would have been accomplished just fine via email,
Mm-hmm.
was to send a message to the SEC to be like, no, like we're not just going to let y'all do whatever you want and run roughshod all over us. But instead, what they made that press conference into was this weird, like, oh man, and this is like it's like this thing where when the ACC and the Big Ten get together, like the
Mm-hmm.
snob factor is just going to go through the
Oh,
roof, and
off
it
the
did.
charts. Off
Like,
the charts.
and
Off
it's
the
like,
charts.
don't nobody stop with this. Like, don't. It's almost like, and there was very also like on The Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever, any reality dating show, there was very like, we're here for the right reasons energy. Like, we're here for the right reasons and they're here for the wrong reasons. Like,
Unlike
okay,
them,
at the end of
which
the
is,
day, like, doesn't matter, man.
it
Like,
doesn't matter. And that's why I tweeted out, like, I would love to see the group chat between Greg Sankey and the rest of the SEC front office and the
they're
SEC
just like
ADs.
LOLing at this
Yeah,
thing.
probably. So shout out to Matt Brown from Extra Points. I highly recommend that everybody subscribe to his newsletter. It's a very valuable resource, and he loves to send Freedom of Information Act requests. So he's ready to go to the FOIA mobile to get some of these text messages between the parties
Matt
at the SEC.
Matt also raised his hand yesterday. Didn't get called on, but I forget what his exact question was. But he said he was going to ask, okay, like you're saying all these things about these three leagues. Are
Sure.
you by extension saying, like, are the teams not in this alliance with you? Do they not share your like which values that you have laid out? Do you feel that these conferences do not share? Because
Yeah.
that seems to be the implication here.
Well, let's cut to the chase. Go back to that original bullet point that I was talking about at the beginning of this panic room, and it's the last bullet point, and that's about championships and other tournament formats and everything else. That's what this is really about. And they just wouldn't come out and say it, right? We basically had to read between the lines. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, who, real quick aside, I don't know if you picked up on this too, Brownlow. I'm sure you did, but I think it's worth pointing out. I thought it was interesting that it was the ACC who was running the show, right? Everything from the announcement who was actually the point person for this, which would be Amy Yakola. If you're not familiar with Amy Yakola, she's been with the ACC a very long time.
Amy's great.
Amy's great. She is essentially, for lack of a better term, she was John Swofford's number two, right? She's the Spock situation. And she is the same role with Jim Phillips. She's behind the scenes getting a lot of work done. And I thought it was interesting that she was the one running this event. Jim Phillips was the first person to actually speak at this event. I think those things matter for optics. And it's not lost on people that Jim Phillips came from the Big Ten. Many people thought he could be the commissioner of the Big Ten before they went with Kevin Warren. And this feels like he's leveraging his relationships in his old conference to get somewhere to I know antitrust, but essentially without saying it, be a voting block against the SEC, because this gets to the central question, which was asked, I believe, by Dennis Dodd of CBS. Are you still in favor of the college football expansion plan? And Jim Phillips did not say yes, and Jim Phillips did not say no. Basically, he was talking about, well, we're still looking at it and everything else. That's not how this stuff was portrayed before the SEC went and added Texas and Oklahoma.
Right.
And the mask came off. And now that the mask is off from the SEC and we know what's really going on here, it looks like these three entities are trying to create a situation that stems what was going to happen, a major monopoly on college football between the SEC and ESPN. All these alliances and scheduling and all this other stuff, all that stuff is really hard to untangle. You know this. They got scheduling all the way out through like 2031. Like, we're scheduled out for a lot of major programs for the next 10 to 15 years. And they said they weren't going to untangle those arrangements because it's expensive to untangle those arrangements.
And they also said that they weren't going to prevent anybody from scheduling another team. So
what is this really about? This is about these three leagues looking at the next window for television negotiations related to the college football playoff. And they're going to make sure, this is my feeling, they are going to make sure that ESPN does not get the exclusive rights to the college football playoff, because they understand they are literally in a business relationship with the SEC. And the ACC has to thread a very careful needle on this because they're in a partnership with ESPN until 2036. I mean, the grant of rights is the grant of rights in a big part because of ESPN. So I really feel like what they're trying to do here is dislodge ESPN from being such an influential force in college football and open things up to Fox and other entities, which everybody wins in this scenario. It's kind of like the NFL. The NFL has leverage because and we talked about this in the Panic Room earlier this week, the NFL is really smart by using their leverage to get more money out of getting the networks to compete against each other.
Right.
The college football minds thought that ESPN had everybody's best interest in mind. No, they have ESPN's best interest in mind, which is what they should be doing.
And
but these college football entities should be also thinking about themselves, and I think they finally had the light bulb go on. Maybe a little too late, but at least it finally went on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I mean, I know we all sort of laughed at them talking about looking into each other's eyes and stuff, and that's why they can trust one another. Let's just all hope, okay, that
we're gentlemen.
That they're not that stupid.
I saw his soul, Lauren.
I think that all of us in the last few weeks, if no other time, have learned that you can't just trust somebody at their word in college sports, or so
we just saw this last year.
Literally, several times we've seen it. So yes. I hope that this weird club of commissioners that they have, that they always speak so highly of or whatever, I hope that some of that is just lip service, and that they're all smart enough to cover their own, behinds, so to speak. I hope they don't really think that is all. That's all I'm saying. I know they have to say, but just, I can't believe that in this year, 2021, that someone would really get up at a press conference and just be like, well, we've all agreed, and our word is our bond.
Yeah. It's like when John Swofford told me and Giglio in April of last year, we talk every day. The commissioners talk every day, and had that football season play out.
Y'all lie to each other every day too, apparently.
One big game of chicken the entire time, right? Just to get to the start of the college football season. So, Yeah, well, and as has been pointed out too, the last time there was an alliance with no formal agreement, no documentation, I think it was back in 2012 between the Big Ten and the Pac-12. You know how long that alliance of scheduling lasted?
Oh yeah.
7 months. It never actually got off the ground.
I was gonna say,
So
yeah, this whole thing has very like when you're little and you start a club or something, energy, and you're like, ooh, a club will be fun. Let's do that. Or you try to start some like rant and you just drop it after like 3 days and no one talks about it ever again. If you're looking at an alliance though of three, that's why I'm wearing this shirt, because this is the only alliance of three that I recognize without any formal contractual arrangements involved. So
that's Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. That's the ACC Panic Room. We'll see you all next week for actual football talk.